Good evening and welcome to Advocacy Mushroom Vape, Cordyceps, Segment 2, Part 2. I thank you very much for stopping by, viewers. I would like to reiterate what we were talking about in Part 1. Sorry, my hand doesn't work like the other hand, so I have to use my other hand. There we go. All right. Now, am I too tall? Okay, so here we are on page 5. Go back to page 5. This is like take 7. I threw an F-bomb the last 2 takes. I get excited. This is important to me. It's really important to me. So what we were talking about on the previous episode was Cordyceps and Cordyceptin. And if you remember the opening salvo, what made us click into this paper is coming up. So let's go back to this segment here. Cordyceps has been included as one of the growing numbers of fungal traditional Chinese medicine, FTCM, used as cures for modern diseases with many products available commercially. Right? Many products available commercially. This is a commercially available product. Except I need subscribers in order to get the location of business together. What's the idea? The idea is to take an existing lot. In Nevada, they have taken a street and said, we only want offices here. So I figured, let me put a lounge there, a vape lounge there. That way it'll fit in with the offices and get grandfathered in to do what I need to do with it. And your guys would be an immense help. I already talked to the Nevada taxation. They like the idea, and they're willing to grant me the license to do that in that area of offices. It's going to be all office building up and down both sides of the street, and then here's going to be this lounge slash parking lot. Offices need parking lots, right? So I was thinking an underground parking lot as an added experience, and as you fellows who are interested in becoming part of the spa VIPs, the subscribers of the vape juice, Mycelium, would have a private entrance, of course. Would be, so this is in turn. So getting back to this, due to recent advancements in pharmaceutical biotechniques, it is possible to isolate bioactive compounds from cordyceps and make it available in powder as well as capsular form. I'm getting cordyceps hot water extracted in powder form. So it's already what do they call it? The term is, what is it? The term is concentrated. It's already concentrated in that form, and then I take it and I filter it. I mix it in with glycerin, and I gravity filter it through a fine mesh, and I take the solids, and the solids after that I take in, I put it through my ethanol extraction rig, which I kicked, and I was just resetting it. That's why I kept back. I didn't even know I kicked it until I saw it kicked. Okay. All right, so, which is, sometimes a reason why I restart the video, but I'm going to hopefully this will take me through. Now remember the paragraph that brought us into this paper. Cordyceps and its products have remarkable clinical health effects, including action on hepatic, renal, cardiovascular, respiratory, nervous, sexual, and immunological systems. besides having anti-cancer, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial activities. This is important. This is an important part. Antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, anti-cancer. Cordyceps has a way of its phosphine to interrupt replications or they call it what? Oh, probably the next page. Transcriptions. They call it transcriptions. Here. Addition of cordycepsin as a COTP cordycepsin triphosphate leads to transcriptional termination. Right? So at least it shortens the life of whatever making itself again and again. And does it by a chemical bonding, a chemical process. It just happens because it's there. So by introducing it there, by introducing cordycepsin, 1/6 of my potency here, of my solution, $13 micrograms of mushrooms each puff, so 1/6 of that is a little over 2 micrograms of cordycepsin each puff. Whatever that translates to, what we're trying to do is trying to get 158 subscriptions to get a VMAE If it ever bubbles, if you can feel it bubbling, just flick your wrist. One of the reasons why it bubbles like that is it needs to get into the core, number one, and number two, it's been sitting there for a while, and I keep jumping back to it to show you it every time I talk about the VMAE. I'm using this sparingly only for video because this is the prescribed product, and I don't want to make it less than it is. For I am on a limited income, and I had to buy this out of my own pocket because, well, I have 2 of them, and I love it. The second one is in my room, but its flavor is always the same. The part of it automatically adjusts the pressure. So when you make your jaw, and when you pull away from your mouth, there's no more draw, and it goes down gradually. So this automatically adjusts the pressure inside of it. It keeps it UV light from breaking it down, etc. This is my go-to product for the 158 subscribers, because with 120 pre-filled pods, it's always going to be the same. The chances of you having a burned pod is going to be slim to none. Even though you can get multiple uses out of a pod, I figure 120 pods for a year's use would be a good deal for the purposes of record keeping. I wanted to have a year's worth and a series of tests. You come to Vegas, you take a part of this, you grant me a prescription fund, I take and I build a facility, and then you get the product, you use it, or you come to the facility to get your product. Then at the facility, we take your measurements. It's a spa experience. I'm going to go as far as I can, as much as I can, to make you feel good. What I want from it is the records. And what you give to me is your ability to be there for the measurements. As a live person, as a person involved in the results. So when the results are published, you are put on a pedestal because you are primary. You are the VIPs of this operation. The spa is just something to do. I need to raise your heart rate for my pulmonologist, and I need your medical history for my pharmacist, my compounding pharmacist. because she's in the art. Remember part 1, we were talking about how cordyceps and the pharmaceutical industry works together the same way. Cordyceps happens to be a natural product that involves itself in our receptors in our body, whereas the pharmaceuticals use a advanced product to spread it out into our system. But both use the same substructure, but cordyceps is a natural aspect of it. So let's go on, because I turned my head and I saw this. Okay, so keeping a view of the above facts, the current review updates us with recent research pertaining to cordyceps and its bioactive compounds isolated from it. So in the process, as I said, I get the fruiting body after it's been hot water extracted. So I get a compounded form of it, a higher level of it, concentrated form of it in a pill form or powder form. So I take that powder, 1 gram of each mushroom, and I mix it with glycerin, and I filter out the bigger solids, a gravity filter, a fine mesh, the bigger solids. Then I take that bigger solids and I pass it through my ethanol extractor to make them smaller solids, only for me to be able to vape them. And because I do it, I get cordycepin. I get these bioactive compounds I get from the ethanol extraction. And these bioactive compounds do many things. One thing it does, it stops the bacterium and viruses from, what do they call it, transcribing itself continuously in a chemical reaction. So it treats it, this becomes a chemical reaction in your lungs on things that we don't want in our lungs, thus providing our lungs the ability to heal themselves without interference, is my point. All right, so I'm an old man, but so the next segment on this discussion is going to be how the cordyceps infects the host, right? So cordyceps usually infects insects at different stages of the development, ranging from insect larvae to adult. Insect's epidermis is covered with a thick layer of cuticle, a procuticle, and epicuticle, which is also known as an integument. So the integument of a bacterium is the same setup, of a virus is the same setup. Not identical, but same. The reason why I say same is because what we're making here is the ability to break down that, no matter what it is, because that's what it does to survive. We take and break down out all the constituents of what the mushroom does to survive, and we bring it into our lungs to help our lungs survive. It's like adding a beneficial health medicine. So it goes on, it says, out of all these components, all right, let's tell you what the components are. The integument is the procuticle and epicuticle. It's the shell of the insect. You ever crush an insect, you hear it pop, it's what being popped. And part of that integument comprises of chitin, proteins, and lipids. So in cordyceps, there is a chitintase, or a chitin is kind of heteropolysaccharide made with polymerization, glucosamine, right? The pathogen has to invade this tough integument, covering to gain entry to the host. So what is mixed in with this is what the mushroom does to get into the insect. We noticed that the insect, we saw the movies, it's controlling the insects, it's got to go up 20 centimeters off the ground, roughly 8 inches, and it just hangs out there, and it just spreads its goo out, and then starts the process over again on the next one. So it breaks through the shell, So the bacteria has a shell, has a covering, has a liquid covering to keep it safe from us. So now it's propagating because it's larger than our immune structure. It propagates enough to get large enough for our immune structure to actually react to it. But this, because it's like this, interrupts its transcription process. It interrupts it chemically because we broke it down to a chemical. But it's organic. All these bioactive organics. You understand what I'm getting at? It's like this, you know. The mushroom produces a conidia, which is kind of like the spores, right? And it's as it grows, as it grows, it hooks together. So if there's two of them growing on, they eventually have fingers or like stalks or veins. They grow out and they meet each other. But all this stuff is now chemical. It's chemical reactant. So if you have outside pathogens in our lungs, that interrupts it. Just that 1/6 of this mushroom goo interrupts that. The others have their own. And as I talk the next few episodes, I'll explain to each one how each one interacts with our lungs. This just happens to stop pathogens. Its primary purpose is to stop things to metastasize itself in our lungs. Plus, it also has the ability to give a numbing effect and allows us to smoke. See, one of the issues with people that are new to vaping is tickles. When you atomize medications for the body, it tickles. So they need to add another ingredient to stop the tickling so the medicine should get into the body. You follow? This is Cordyceps is a natural way to do this. It's still all chemical, but it's a natural way to get there. All right? So let's go on. And this explains how it goes to the next step and everything else. But here, it's the hyphae, right? Okay, so as it breaks into it, those root things or fingers, or I was trying to get at, it's called hyphae. They're the strands, because when this one grows here, this one grows there, and you eventually meet, those eventually meet parts are called the hyphae, is what they're saying here. And then eventually it breaks through the tough outer shell of the insect and gets into it and goes on. And it just goes on. And during the growth inside the host, fungus produces various kinds of toxic secondary metabolites. And these toxic secondary metabolites are insecticidal. So what we're doing here is we're creating an insecticidal cloud. Because what it does to its shell, right? So we're taking that process that breaks that down, and we're taking out the coating that the bacteria has and that the virus has to protect itself from its environment. And since our lungs are an enclosed environment, it doesn't have much to worry about. You get it? So you add something extra to it, it's doing it. So in the environment, in this environment, I'm decreasing the likelihood of that bacterium or virus to survive. Anyway, so if we have a bunch of people vaping in a room, we're lessening the effect of it happening. That's what I'm saying, and that's why it's important to go over this section. So what we are seeing is Cordyceps has this remarkable ability to take a worm in the Himalayas and grow it up, the larvae of the moth or butterfly, Lepidoptera. So it also has the ability to stop infections, is what I'm saying. And they go into, ultimately it dies out. The fungal mycelium emerges through the cuticle and leads to the formation of fruited body under the suitable environmental conditions. So it creates a mycelium in the bugs, and then creates the fruiting body, which we could take, chop up, extract, and breathe in and stop the smaller bugs, so to speak. So Cordyceps diversity and cultivation. There are more than 1,200 entomorphopathogenic fungi reported. Humber, 2000. In the literature out which Cordyceps constitutes one of the largest genus, containing approximately 500 species and varieties. Right? And that's what I'm getting. I'm getting a species or variety of the fruiting body of Cordyceps in a powder form. Hot water extracted already before I get it. So for example, if I could grow at the lounge. I can have a greenhouse, an area where I can grow my own mushrooms, get the DNA profile. Perhaps we want to go further into one species of Cordyceps more than another. We don't know yet. That's why it's important for you, the subscriber, the 158, to invest so we can find out which is the best over a period of time. You know, you're generating studies, generating results. This is a true thing. This is something I'd like to do for mankind. You remember, mankind used to be used as a generic term for people, right? I call you viewers, I can call you mankind. But you wouldn't want to be called you people, right? All right, so as viewers, nearly 80 to 85% of all medicinal mushroom products are extracted from the fruiting bodies, while only 15% are derived from Mycelium culture. How interesting is that? Paul Stamets maintains that the Mycelium culture has more of the bioactive compounds we'd like, because it needs to survive in its environment. For example, in its environment, let's say we are growing our own mushrooms on site, and we increase toxic minerals. For example, let's say one of our subscribers has a toxic mineral issue. So we push the toxic mineral issue onto Mycelium. It reacts and it saves itself from that. So we extract what it saves itself with from that particular Mycelium, and we introduce it to the patient or to the subscriber. And we see how that reacts. We see what the pulmonologist reports on how well it did. It's kind of like a sponge soaking out the toxins. Since there is a huge requirement of medicinal mushroom biometabolites, it's necessary to convert Mycelium biomass artificially. And my cultivation area of the lounge. The street that I was telling you about that has all the offices has an acre with a building ready to go, and an area behind the building where I could set up the mushroom cultivation shop, and a buy your mushrooms. You people could drive up in there, because parking's going to be underground. People could drive up to the mushroom part and buy a loaf of bread or a loaf of mushrooms, right? So that's an idea. It has a small parking area on top for that purpose. But underneath for the lounge, there's a parking area, mind you. Okay, so because there, if I do enough parking area for that, I can rent out spaces for the neighbors, and they could use the lounge as a smoking lounge and have a community-based operation. But the VIPs, the 158, come in when they come in, and they are they are experiencing the spa of the facility. Okay, so, and then it goes on to explain that aspect, the cultivation of microbial biomass. Cereal grains, right? So they were saying cereal grains. See, okay, Cordyceps mycelium can grow on different nutrients containing media such as rice. But we don't like cooked rice. It doesn't taste good in this, so we're not going to use rice. But for commercial fermentation and cultivation, insect larvae, which is silkworm residue, and various cereal grains have been used in the past. It has been seen consistently from both insect larvae and cereal grains, fruity body of fungus can be attained with almost comparable medicinal properties. Okay, so we don't necessarily have to use the mycelium, because if we use the right cultivation of the mycelium, the fruiting body will have almost comparable medical properties. So I just talked myself out of needing to have the actual mycelium. But having growing it, I can have the actual comparable fruiting body, which is most important. I need to be on site with this. So right now I'm getting the hot water extracted form of it in a powder form. Here, hold on, let me show you. 1 second. Okay. This is Cordyceps. And it's a powder form. Right, can you see in there? All right. I'm going to have to turn the lights on soon. Let me put that back. I appreciate you taking your time out of your day to view this, and I appreciate you allowing me to chew off your ear for half an hour. And there's 62 pages of this. So we go on to the nutritional value of Cordyceps. So part of the marketing strategy is to say there's a nutritional value. And that would be next on part 3 of segment 2, Cordyceps. Thank you very much for your time.